Welcome to the wildest stories on the internet, Am I the A-hole edition. From wedding drama to family meltdowns, these Reddit tales will leave you asking, who's the real a-hole here? Let's dive in. If you've ever dreamed about winning the lottery, this story might change your mind. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife we either share our lotto winnings or we separate and I get half anyway? Here's the story. My wife and I are extremely fortunate to have won a decent amount of money from lotto recently. It wasn't the top prize, but it was enough to pay off our sizable mortgages and still have some left for our vacations. The mortgage was by far our biggest weekly cost, and with that gone, we could both comfortably cut our hours back at work to only school hours and spend some more time with our kids. This was always a daydream we spoke about when we bought lotto tickets. I assumed this is what we would both do. When we got the money and paid off our house, everything almost immediately turned bad. My wife started talking about how amazing it's going to be to finally not have to work anymore. I was blindsided by this. Even with the mortgage gone, we would still have to work at least school hours to keep our current standard of living, and on my salary alone, things would be tight. I asked if she was serious, and she said, of course, it was her ticket and she gets to decide. This is BS because we both bought lotto tickets before, and when we moved in together, we only bought one because two seemed like a waste of money. I try to reason with her, say she could use some of the extra to take some unpaid leave here and there, but she needs to keep her job. When I said if I'm only working school hours, she absolutely flipped and started accusing me of being a gold digger and ruining this for her, how she deserved it after working so much of her life. I asked her for a pause because I was honestly afraid. She's never been like this before. The next few days we tried to have this conversation again, but she didn't budge an inch. And when she said, well, it doesn't matter now because I'm putting in my notice at work, I lost it and told her I'm not going through with this. If she's not going to share the winnings, which is under both of our names, I'll divorce her and get half through the house and therefore half the winnings anyway. This started another screaming match where she continued to call me a gold digger. I'm absolutely exhausted and lost. I feel like my wife has been replaced by an imposter. I would have preferred not winning if I knew this was going to happen. The comment section was packed with support for the husband and disbelief at how the wife handled the situation. Most people agree that money has exposed her selfishness. One user wrote, "Tell your wife that she's blowing up your marriage with her ridiculousness. She's not walking away from the relationship a winner." And another user said, "She attacked your character and name-called gold digger when faced with facts and accountability. Not the a-hole." Many commenters emphasized getting legal help ASAP, with several saying things like, money doesn't change people, it reveals them. This story sparked a huge debate, but most people saw the same red flag. Overall, people were shocked at how fast a wife turned selfish and dismissed their shared dreams and responsibilities. 85% said the husband is not the a-hole and the wife is acting selfish and reckless. 10% suggested counseling or mediation to possibly salvage the relationship, but agreed she's out of line. 5% had a mixed opinion, raising questions about communication or suggesting she might be overwhelmed and not thinking clearly. Most commenters believe the husband acted reasonably and his wife's actions after the lotto win shows deeper issues in their relationship. So, money just doesn't change your bank account, it changes people. And sometimes it reveals who they really are. If a win turns into a loss for your relationship, maybe it was never really a win in the first place. I think I just found the most clueless husband story of Reddit. My wife brought a fancy set of lingerie a few months ago without telling me. Am I the a-hole for being slightly suspicious of this? Here's the story. My wife, 34-year-old female, and I, 37-year-old male, have been married for 6 years and together for 10. We have 2 children, and my wife is a stay-at-home mom. So a couple of days ago, I was digging around our closet and our wardrobe for my wrist sleeves, which I had lost. I really wanted to find these sleeves, so I dug the entire place up and luckily found the sleeves. However, while searching, I also found a hidden set of lingerie. It was in a plastic cover, it had the box, box and the lingerie. It clearly wasn't a gift because the box had been opened and the lingerie was outside the box. Now, my wife has full liberty to purchase whatever she wants, and I usually never track what she purchases. However, for this particular item, I went through my credit card history to check for when the specific brand name purchase was made, and it was made 5 months ago. Am I the a-hole for being slightly suspicious of this? I love my wife so much, and she loves me too, but clearly my wife has been wearing this lingerie for months, and I have never seen her wear it. Ever. Is this just to feel good about herself? Do women just buy a fancy set of lingerie for themselves and keep it hidden from their husbands? What's the purpose of this? So, a quick update. I was definitely wrong to overreact, and I'm really glad I came on here to get opinions first. So the day after I posted, I casually asked my wife about the lingerie I found, and she was actually excited about it, and she said she had bought 3 more sets which she has hidden, and she was planning to surprise me on our wedding anniversary, which is in a week. She said she had bought these sets on Black Friday last year. She was blushing about it. It was hilarious. I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack for this, but I completely forgot that our wedding anniversary was just a week away. I've been extremely busy with work and I'm not the best at dates. So I'm actually really glad about this divine intervention because I can now plan a proper wedding anniversary for my wife. The comments were a wild mix of laughter, advice, and collective facepalming. Most people were relieved he talked to his wife before spiraling. One user said, OP needs to start using an online calendar to remember his anniversary. Glad Reddit talked him down from jumping to conclusions that could ruin what sounds like a fun time that his wife was planning for them. One user added, I'm surprised Reddit talked him down. Normally they jump straight to cheating and divorce. And one user humorously shared, it ended up being a long list of people admitting their impulse purchases, and where we collectively hide the evidence so nobody finds out we bought it. This story brought out a surprising amount of empathy and personal anecdotes. Most commenters weren't mad, just amused and a little worried for the guy's memory. 70% of commenters thought the husband was jumping to conclusions, but appreciated that he had asked Reddit instead of accusing his wife. 20% shared relatable experiences about lingerie purchases that never get worn, proving how common this situation actually is. And 10% were more critical, pointing out how it's unfair he forgot the anniversary while she had been planning a surprise. Reddit rarely gets to flex its mature problem-solving muscles like this. Turns out, sometimes asking instead of assuming saves your relationship. Honestly, this one's kind of sweet. If anything, it's a reminder that communication is key, and that maybe, just maybe, putting your anniversary on your calendar isn't such a bad idea. Props to this guy for catching himself before turning a sexy surprise into a trust crisis. This is a story of how one woman faced surgery alone while her husband enjoyed a burger. Am I the a-hole for not accepting a dozen roses from my husband after my surgery? Here's the story. I had to have a lumpectomy on one of my breasts due to cancer. My husband took me to the hospital for the procedure and left to go run errands. I had never had this procedure done before, and finding out I had cancer was a scary thing. He said he'd be right back while they were prepping me for surgery. Once I was ready and waiting to go into surgery, the nurse asked if I wanted my husband to come sit with me until it was time to go in. I said yes, but she came back and said she couldn't find him. I sat in the room by myself for an hour and he still didn't show. I went into surgery without any reassurance from him, no kiss on the cheek with an I love you or everything will be okay. It was such a lonely feeling and I was wishing that I had brought my mom with me instead. The procedure was done within an hour and I was in the recovery room. Once my anesthesia wore off, I was awake and realized my husband still had not returned. At this point, I was really getting worried. The nurse said he wasn't answering his phone and she seemed irritated that he wasn't there. The nurse went on to give me post-surgery directions, which I was only half listening to because I was still kind of out of it, plus with my increasing worry of where the hell my husband was. The nurse comes in after a half hour and says, "Sweetie, we are still trying to call him, but if he doesn't get here soon, you won't be able to leave. There is a big storm coming in and this wing will be on lockdown until the storm passes." I could feel the tears welling up in my eyes. I just wanted to go home. home. 10 more minutes go by and he waltzes in with a dozen roses like he was the most thoughtful husband ever. When I asked where he was, he told me he was at the bar because he was hungry for one of their delicious burgers. I told him that I had been waiting alone throughout the whole ordeal and that he should have been there for me. He said he was sorry and he held out the roses. I told him he could take the roses and shove it, and that I was never having him come with me during a medical procedure ever again because he sucked. I was getting part of my breast removed while he had a tasty burger with a beer? What the hell? Tears streamed down my face the entire ride home. The comments were furious on behalf of the poster. Almost everyone agreed that the husband was totally in the wrong. One user said, "Not the a-hole. Not being there for you is already bad, but not even bothering to answer his phone while he knows you're going into surgery is beyond disrespectful." Another user questioned his story. He was having a burger throughout the whole time. Really? That's the most awful lie I've ever heard. His story doesn't add up at all. One commenter even suspected deeper issues, saying, especially given he didn't answer the phone. The reaction was overwhelmingly against the husband, with nearly no one defending him. 95% of commenters were completely on the OP side, calling the husband's actions neglectful, suspicious, and disrespectful. 5% speculated mixed motives but still blamed him, suggesting he might have a deeper issue like addiction or infidelity. Reddit was outraged. This wasn't just about forgetting flowers. This was about abandonment during one of the most emotionally vulnerable and medically serious moments of someone's life. You don't show love with flowers. You show it by showing up. If someone can't be there for you when you need them the most, it says everything you need to know. Sometimes the clearest answer comes in silence and a really suspicious burger. This might be the most manipulative Reddit boyfriend story of the year. Am I the a-hole for calling my boyfriend a lying piece of crap for not buying me the perfume I wanted for my birthday? Here's the story. I, 21-year-old female, am really into beauty. Makeup, skincare, perfumes, etc. and collect perfumes. There's one perfume I've been wanting for quite some time now, but it's been way out of my budget. I'm a college student working a part-time job at the movie theater, which pays about $13 an hour, and I have other priorities to pay for, so it's taken me a while to save up. I'd finally saved up the amount I needed and was planning on buying myself the perfume as a birthday gift. My birthday was 2 days ago. I told my boyfriend, 20-year-old male, and he told me to go spend my money on something else and that he'd buy me the perfume instead. I told him he didn't have to considering it's expensive, but he insisted. A few days before my birthday, I asked him if he was sure about buying it and told him again that I had no problem buying it myself. He told me not to worry about it and said he'd already bought and wrapped it. I thanked him and figured since he'd already bought it that I could spend my money on something else. I took my best friend and my younger sister out to a nice restaurant and to the movies after. I wasted more than half the money I'd saved up, but obviously didn't think anything of it. So on my birthday, my boyfriend gave my gift, and it was a body spray and bath bomb. I asked him what happened to the perfume, and he told me it was a lot more expensive than he'd expected and way out of his budget. I got mad at him and asked him why he lied to me and told me to waste my money on something else when he could have easily told me he couldn't afford it and I would have bought it myself. He called me a spoiled brat and said I was expecting too much from him. I called him a piece of lying crap and left after that. I got a few texts from him and his friends calling me names and saying I'm using him for money. I also got a text from his mom, who I had a great relationship with, calling me childish for throwing temper tantrums when I don't know how to get my way. I honestly don't see how I'm in the wrong here, but I'm not the type of person to not say sorry if I am. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. Hey everyone, just wanted to thank you so much for the feedback and some birthday wishes. I'm going over to my boyfriend's place in an hour to speak with him and his mom. He lives with his parents, and I'll probably break up with him. Reddit was on fire over this one. Most people agreed the perfume wasn't the real issue, it was the lie. One user said, "You gave him multiple chances to change his mind. Then he lied and acted like it was your fault." leave him. Another user added, he lied to you and then lied to other people about you. Break it off and find someone who won't manipulate you. And another user broke it down simply. Anyone with sense would have told you the truth instead of leading you on. This story sparked a lot of reactions, but almost all agreed on one thing. OP was not the problem here. 85% of commenters sided with the writer, saying she had every right to be upset after being lied to and guilt-tripped. 10% thought both sides could have communicated better, but still said the boyfriend was mostly to blame. Reddit firmly said, not the a-hole. The lying, manipulation, and bringing in his friends and mom? Huge red flags. Sometimes it's not about the gift, it's about the trust. If someone lies and then tries to flip the blame on you, that's not a relationship. That's a warning sign. Birthday or not, she deserved better. And if you've ever dealt with someone like that, you know the best gift you can give yourself is walking away. This is a story of how a cringe anime pillow saved a marriage. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to get rid of the anime body pillow that saved my marriage? Here's the story. My husband and I are best friends during the day. Love of my life. It's at night that's an issue. I'm a blanket stealer. I once yanked them so hard, poor hubby flipped a full 180. Hubby, for his part, is a thrasher. Bruce Lee would be jealous of the moves he pulls off while unconscious. It's a constant war between us when we fall asleep, and both of us often wake up sore and exhausted. It was starting to affect our relationship. Neither of us wanted to move to a separate bed because we like spending our nights together, but it seemed like an inevitability. We were both crabby every morning, and we started fighting as soon as we got up. It sucked, but neither of us wanted to concede defeat and move on to the other bed. Quick background, I was a huge nerd as a teenager. Full on otaku. Go ahead. Cringe, I do too. One night, as a joke, I brought down an old anime body pillow from the attic. I know, the cringe, and plopped it down between my husband and I, declaring it our demilitarized zone. Hubby also thought it was hilarious, and we named her DMC-chan. She stayed there the whole night. It was a game changer. DMC-chan protected me from hubby's REM-induced rampages, and she's just heavy enough that I can't yank the blankets at full speed. DMC-chan is now a beloved part of our nightly routine. We both thought it was the funniest thing, but she legitimately helped us solve the only real issue in our marriage. One day, mother-in-law stopped by to pick something up. She got up to use the restroom, passing by our open bedroom door. You can guess what she saw. DMZ-chan propped up in the middle of our bed, her giant soulful anime eyes looking right back at mother-in-law. When she got back, she quickly grabbed her stuff and left, hubby and I both confused. She later mentioned DMZ-chan to hubby while they were on the phone, and it absolutely mortified him. As far as I know, mother-in-law now thinks we're deviants in a three-way relationship with a body pillow. Hubby was too embarrassed to explain, and now he wants to put DMZ-chan back in the attic. I was upset. I told him I didn't want to go back to boxing each other at night, and that DMZ-chan helped us so much in that. He agreed, but suggested we get a normal, plain body pillowcase to replace her. I felt like there was no need to spend money on something we already have, and if it really was that big of an issue, we can put her in the closet while we have company over. Hubby is firm in that she has to go permanently. I know he's embarrassed, but I feel we shouldn't have to compromise our inside jokes to appease other people. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Sweet bees, this blew up. Was not expecting all the attention. Just wanted to say thank you to everyone for chiming in. I admit I was being stubborn. I drove over to Target on my lunch break and bought a new cover for $10. I put it on DMZ-chan as soon as I got home. And to those asking, I did wash her after fishing her out of the attic, and am now waiting on hubby to get home so I can apologize for making him uncomfortable. DMZ-chan shall live on in our hearts and under the blanket when company's over. Most commenters found this story hilarious and surprisingly relatable. The general vibe was, the pillow isn't the issue. It's about mutual respect, privacy, and finding compromise. One popular user said, "Not the a-hole. The real problem isn't about removing the pillow, but the fact that your mother-in-law made a scene about something that isn't even her business." Another user gave a more balanced view. Regardless of his reasoning, it's not hard or difficult to compromise, so why worry the relationship over a damn pillowcase? This story brought out a wide range of opinions, but most agreed on one thing: compromise is key, even if your mother-in-law jumps to weird conclusions. 60% of commenters leaned towards not the a-hole for wanting to keep the inside joke and routine that saved their sleep. 30% said everyone sucks here, blaming the mother-in-law for overstepping, the husband for being embarrassed, and OP for being way too stubborn at first. Overall, most people felt this wasn't about the pillow at all, but about communicating clearly, respecting your partner's comfort, and laughing at life's weird little moments. Sometimes the weirdest solutions end up saving the day, or the marriage. Whether it's a body pillow named DMZ Chan or a Star Wars themed blanket wall, what matters most is finding what works for you. But a little compromise never hurts, especially if it costs $10 at the Target. Behind this iPad is one of the most disturbing step-parent Reddit stories we have seen. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife I want a divorce after she pointed out that as a stepdad I have to keep showing up no matter what happens? Here's the story. I, 39-year-old male, married Lisa, 38-year-old female 4 years ago. She was divorced and had 2 kids with her ex. They split custody and didn't really co-parent because things were strained between them, but they could both be civil around the kids. The kids in question are 11 and 9, and Lisa and I have a 3-year-old together. Problems started when Lisa's ex started giving me attitude and being hostile when I was in his presence. He'd tell me to not speak to his kids and to know my place. Lisa would tell her ex to stop, and she warned him she'd document all of that, but he carried on with these hostile remarks in front of the kids, and eventually the kids started treating me the same way. Lisa went back to court, and the judge ruled that she and her ex had to individually take some parenting classes, and that was it. Her ex carried on as he was, and the judge didn't do anything further. She was told it wasn't actual parental alienation. The kids had never minded Lisa saying they were our kids, or me saying stepkids. I followed their lead on what to call them, and I asked them if they'd like me to drop the step, and they said no. But Lisa started to have issues with it, and the kids started to have issues with her saying our kids instead of my kids, and the kids kicked up a fuss about it. The original conversations with me and them happened before the trouble with their dad started. The fuss started after his comments. The kids started telling me to stop saying stepkids, and they weren't my stepkids. Lisa wasn't happy about me saying stepkids either, but the kids didn't want me claiming them as anything, and my wife wanted me to claim them as my kids. She started encouraging more of a relationship between us, but the kids constantly disrespected me. She wanted me to take them more places, wanted me to be more involved in more of their extracurricular activities. I was already involved to some degree, but she was mom, her ex was dad, and I was stepdad, and not equal to the bio parents. But she said I signed up to be their dad, and that was what I needed to be, and I tried to be there more. She said the kids would come around when they saw me being there for them. Their dad was more hostile to me. He was hostile to the child I share with Lisa too. The kids started rejecting their half-sibling. They had never been super fond, but at least it would be kind around the youngest, but that did end, and they were angry about our child's presence. They repeated some of their things their dad had said. Lisa went back to court over it all, and the judge still did nothing more. I suggested the kids get therapy, and Lisa decided we needed family therapy. But the kids wouldn't talk or listen. And the therapist suggested individual, which Lisa ignored. I went on my own and got some good things out of it, and I attempted on numerous occasions to communicate the problems I was having to Lisa so we could work them through. The more time that passes, the more Lisa gets angry that I won't step up and be their dad, but the more I try to be involved, the angrier her kids get and the more disrespect I get, and if I even try to correct it, they get more angry and show more disrespect. The final straw for me happened last week. I had picked the oldest up from practice, and in the car they got mad at me for trying to ask how it went. It started with, "You're not my dad," but went up to saying they would accuse me of abusing them because then I'd be punished and would never see them again, and it would make them and their siblings happy because they hate me like their dad hates me. I told Lisa about this, and she told me I need to remain strong and carry on because they all need me. I asked her if she was serious, and she said yes. I told her that's a serious threat her child made. She corrected me and said, "Our child." I told her that I would likely get physically attacked by one or both of her kids given their anger around it, and I told her they themselves have repeatedly said they are not my kids and I am not their dad. She told me I signed up for it by marrying her. I told her this changed things, and she said it didn't. I asked her if the kid or even both kids followed through on that promise and I had to leave the home and couldn't see our child until I was clear, would she still expect me to keep showing up no matter what? She told me yes, and that even if her kids attacked me, or even if they say more horrible things, it's my job to keep showing up and to be there. This made me leave. I told her before I left that I wanted a divorce and I would not stick around for that. She argued that I'm giving up, and in the end, we'd win because we're the good guys if we keep being there. I asked her how she could be so sure. I told her it doesn't always work, and she told me it's because the steps are usually not as good as mine, and I was always amazing to her kids and just needed to work harder. I've seen our child almost every day since I moved out. The house was Lisa's before our marriage, and I'm determined to follow through with the divorce. Lisa keeps telling me I need to reconsider and I need to man up, and her father even confronted me about it. Actually, while he was confronting me, we could hear Lisa and the kids fighting over her calling me their dad, but he repeated what she did, that I signed up to be their dad and should fight harder. So, am I the a-hole? The comment section was heavily in support of the writer. Most commenters were horrified by the situation and applauded the OP for getting out before serious harm was done. One user wrote, "Not the a-hole. She expects you to move heaven and earth to achieve the impossible while failing at it herself and doing absolutely nothing to help you meet her expectations." In response to the danger of the situation, one user said, "OP needs to go for primary custody to keep their child safe now. He's not there and she's a useless protector." And on how damaging the situation was becoming, one user noted, "The stepkids will abuse their younger sibling. They're already emotionally abusing them. Soon it will turn physical." This story struck a nerve with the Reddit community. People were not just reacting emotionally, they were alarmed. 95% of commenters sided with the OP, calling him smart for getting out and deeply concerned for his child's safety. Many emphasized the risk of false accusations and the toxic environment. 3% of commenters had mixed feelings. They acknowledged the complexity but believed more could have been done earlier on by both adults. 2% were skeptical, either doubting the full accuracy or pointing out possible exaggeration or lack of accountability. Overall, most readers agreed the OP had no real choice. The threats made by the kids and the wife's refusal to take them seriously made leaving the only safe option for him and his child. This wasn't just a tough family situation. It was a time-ticking bomb. Sometimes walking away isn't giving up, it's protecting what matters most. OP didn't fail. He acted when no one else would. This is a story of how one man finally said enough. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife that I'm ending our marriage because I found her brother at our house again and said it in front of him and walked out on his own marriage? Here's the story. I, 38-year-old male, left my wife, Kelly, 30-year-old female, today. 5 years together. 4 married. I have battled her lack of boundaries about her family for the past 2 years. I understand that they are very close-knit, but she never paid attention to how their dynamics affected our relationship. I experienced every just no family situation. My food was eating, showing up uninvited, meddling, you name it. 9 months ago, my mother-in-law and father-in-law began divorce proceedings. He cheated, fell madly in love with a side chick with whom he's lived for the past 15 years, and he decided decided that he wanted to get remarried. He kicked everyone out of the house. It was an emergency, so I agreed to help out. I so freaking regret it. I had to take 4 people in, but they couldn't think to avoid constantly upsetting me. I got sick of finding them using our private bathroom. They had complete access to other full bathrooms by the hallway. Sister-in-law started taking naps on our bed, which is creepy because a bed is too personal. I came home late and we had to wake her up and still waited for her to snap out of her groggy state so that she could walk out. It lasted for 3 months, but the problems persisted. No matter how many times I told my wife and even told them, they still showed up at random hours. Even if I didn't run into them, I know she was allowing them to come over. I hated their presence. They would eat my snacks and get on my expensive recliner chair, which again, they didn't contribute a penny for. I had a mini orchid that they picked empty. Things got so tense that I blew at her in front of them. They left, we had a fight, and I ended up sleeping in a hotel. I warned her many times about being fed up and needing her to support me. She acted like I was demanding that she abandon her family. Today, I came home to find her brother's car blocking the entrance. Not on the side and not even on the driveway, just right in the middle, where my only option would be to get on the lawn. I go inside and he's lying with his shoes on the couch. He gave me this fresh smile like he's untouchable. I went to our bedroom and packed as much of my belongings as possible and ignored her pleas to talk. There's nothing else to talk about. I already called a few lawyers but haven't received any replies yet. She cried, but at this point, I have no empathy. I don't even know if I overreacted or if I needed to discuss this in private. I feel defeated and angry, and I also hate her family with my soul. They knew they were hurting our relationship, and they didn't care. She knew that I'm a private person who hates being invaded. I helped them because I love her, and I didn't have the balls to let them go sleep in their car. We don't have kids, but there are so many things that will be left undone. I loved her so much, but I just can't do this. She called me immediately after I left and I told her that my decision is final. She sounded shaken, but I told her that right now I despise her and I will never be able to sleep next to her again. Sorry for any typos. I have a migraine right now. I'm just coming here because I just want to ask if leaving the way that I did was an a-hole move, and maybe I should have announced my intention of ending our marriage after her brother was gone. The comment section is full of strong opinions. Most people are on the husband's side, emphasizing how long he endured boundary stomping from his wife's family. One user says, "Not much to say to OP, not the a-hole. You stated all the facts. She knew. Her family knew. This is in no way for you to have to exist in your own home. I am so glad you left." Another user adds, "As your wife and partner, she should work with you instead of against you. She's enabling her family to treat you poorly." And another user with a powerful take says, "A toxic family is no different than an addiction. Sometimes the only thing you can do is remove yourself from the situation." However, some users thought OP may have gone too far, especially for drawing a hard line without one last private talk. Most commenters understood why he snapped, but a few questioned the extreme responses and emotional tone. 75% of commenters supported the husband and believed he had every right to leave after repeatedly being disrespected and ignored. 15% felt he should have handled the divorce discussion in private or tried counseling first, calling the public exit immature or emotional. Overall, while there's plenty of sympathy for both sides, the majority felt OP was pushed too far too long, and his exit, though dramatic, was justified. Sometimes walking away isn't about giving up. It's about choosing peace when someone refuses to meet you halfway. If your partner can't set boundaries with others, you end up alone in a relationship anyway.